Ladies and gentlemen, it's not often that we come across a news article that is so ridiculous in the making that I feel the need to actually sit down in order to address you on this. We're all experiencing between stage 5, 6, and 7 of load shedding, depending on, how they feel today. In any case, news has come out this morning that Eskom's union has said, despite not actually being able to provide electricity to the country, they would like a pay rise because they feel they deserve it. No reason to deserve it. They just feel they deserve it. So what exactly does this pay rise actually look like? Well, Eskom feels that it needs 50% more for their performance-related bonuses. They also want 7,000 Rand for housing bonuses or housing allowances. They want subsidized cell phone allowance, 1,500 Rand to pay towards their electricity. This isn't the least of it. They also want another 1,000 for truck driver allowance, 10,000 for vehicle allowance. They would like all trainees to be absorbed into Eskom, even though there's an overabundance of like 40,000 people working at Eskom. They want childcare allowances. They want rural bonus allowances. They also want their payday moved to the 26th of each month so that they actually get paid quicker. And above all, they want to retire at 60 because they don't want to stick around for any longer than they have to. Joining me is Ramon. Ramon, what do you think of Eskom's demands?
If I really have to say what I really think, I will go to the Human Rights Commission tomorrow and be jailed for a lifetime. So I'm going to try temper my anger and say, Num, are you out of your fucking head? You fucking retards. Yeah, so this is the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, one of the unions aligned to the ANC in the first place, right? The parasitic element of the working class in South Africa, NUM is certainly one of them. So if you look at the demands, right, let's get the facts straight first. There are 40,000 employees that are oversupplied at Eskom. There are too many employees there. That's why their wage bill is so high, and that's why they incur debt like it's no one's business. These same employees who can't do the job, which we know because we don't have any bloody electricity, now want more. Give me something mentality on record here in South Africa for all to see. I mean, Byron, you own a business. I own a business. Do any of your employees have a vehicle allowance of any sort whatsoever?
No.
Does any employee have a housing allowance?
No.
Does any employee have a cell phone allowance?
Double no.
Does any employee have a electricity allowance?
No, I don't give them electricity allowances because there isn't any electricity. So why am I paying for something you don't have?
All right, just one last thing. I mean, your business is down in the Eastern Cape. It's, according to the stats, very, very dangerous down there. Do any of your employees have danger pay?
No.
But why, Byron? Is it because you're racist or because you're trying to run a business? Or both?
Do I have to answer that? According to the ANC government, it must be because I'm racist. The rest of us aren't retarded. But according to Eskom, we need to raise our rates, right? And Eskom has to have this huge, substantial cost increase in what it's going to cost us for electricity.
Right. So in April of this year, electricity went up by almost 20%. Next year, it will go up by another 15 to 20%. And that's only for the foreseeable future. In time to come, it's going to be much more expensive thanks to NERSA in general. So what are we actually doing here? We've got a bunch of whackers who are holding Eskom, i.e. the taxpayers, ransom. But they're not doing it because they're actually good at their job. The irony is they're doing it because they are so shit at their job. They're trying to milk the system as much as possible before Eskom becomes absolutely obsolete. If I had my choice, I would put stage 12 load shedding immediately overnight, have everyone create their own IPP or independent power somewhere, and burn Eskom to the ground overnight, because this is exactly what these workers deserve. And South Africa, to be honest.
Yeah, so I mean, it is actually quite an impressive list of demands that they are asking for, really. I mean, if you think about it, if they get all of these demands, which we have recently seen when it came through to the municipal strikes, that they pretty much burn the place down in order to get these demands, and Treasury, which lacks a spine, and never only actually sends in anybody to enforce the rules, will probably cave in and provide the allowances. But with that all being said, yeah, man, like if they actually get these allowances, like Eskom's probably the nicest place in the country to work, even though they are failing their constitutional mandate to provide electricity. I have never known a company in the world where everybody fails at their job, the company loses money like there's no tomorrow. You cannot print money fast enough in order to pay for the losses. And yet the grift is still pay me more because like I'm entitled to it. Why are you entitled to it? I'm a union, and if you don't do what I say, I'll burn the place to the ground. Now there is actually a word for this in the English language, and it's called a mafia. It's called a protection racket. But unfortunately, that's actually what Eskom now is.
Exactly. Here's the thing with this unions and the demands made by them. What leverage do they have? Zero. Like, fuck all leverage. right? What happens if they're down tools? Oh, you get load shedding. Oh, we got that already, guys. So, like, too bad for you. If we're down tools, we're going to sabotage the power stations. Yeah, but that's already happening, guys. What leverage do you physically have other than literally putting a nuclear bomb in Medupi? And even then, is that a bad thing? Not for me personally. So, if the ANC had any balls, which they don't, they would say, guys, do your worst. You can't really do much worse. What are we going to have? A national grid shutdown? We almost had that in February. Everyone's planned for it already. So there is absolutely no leverage these union members have whatsoever.
I do think the sheer grift of it, asking for this kind of pay and asking for the pay increases because, their cost of living. And if you look at their actual arguments, it's, wage increases in South Africa, cost of living is really high now. They're struggling to pay for things. Well, Ramon, there's a reason that they may be struggling to pay for things. It's because we have no electricity and the majority of businesses are now suffering, which means they have to raise their price up. So you need more money to pay for things because you failed at your job and made things more expensive. Man, this is ANC logic. Like, there's an argument, and I know people on the right always say this, but man, these people are dumb. But I'm not even saying it now to be hyperbolical. Like, these people are just dumb.
Exactly. And the problem with retardation is, like, you can't fix it. Like, you just can't. In this particular case, Eskom workers in particular are just like sort of a retarded class of people who've managed to get where they are based on some state coercion of sorts. They didn't get there through merit. They didn't get there because they're good. They didn't get there because we needed them when the time came. They got there because all the circumstances were created by the state to put them in that position. And what have we felt in South Africa since then? The utter retardation of the entire state of South Africa. And this is the result, right? This is the result where you got people who do no work whatsoever, who don't provide the basic requirements for their jobs, now wanting more money because they just can. This is it. Like, this is the total retardation of South Africa in action.
I couldn't agree more. This is a power utility that has the entire state in a monopolistic way. You cannot get rid of these guys. They are the ones in charge because every time somebody tries to do something, even though we're asked to, right? I mean, we covered this last week in a video. Even when we provide our own electricity, even when we make alternatives, they go, nah, we don't really want you to do that because then you'll take away from our monopoly. But don't worry, the monopoly will provide you power. But it never does. And even though the electricity generation is getting worse and worse and all the skill has exited Eskom to the point where there's nothing about Eskom now that is redeemable. And yet you wouldn't sit there and just go, oh, yeah, sorry about that, guys. Hang our head in shame and do better. It's like, no, hold their head up high and ask for more money. Like, the sheer grift. It's horrendous, mate.
But it goes to show what happens when you win in Africa, right? When you win in Africa, you set the rules for everything, including yourself. And there's nothing shameless. There's nothing shameful. There's nothing that anyone else can do because you are the winner and you have set the rules. And that's a very important part of South African politics. And if you want to know more about that, listen to our podcast that was released last week. It is linked down below. Once you win, you set the rules. If you don't win, you don't set the rules. So irrespective of what it takes, you need to win first. And hopefully the opposition coalition in South Africa can now finally understand that.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. There's no saving the ANC. The ANC is not worth saving, mate. Think about all the things they fucked up. You cannot read the list of these things and go, oh, this looks good. Any other country would class this type of government as anti the country. These people are deeply hostile to the country they live in.
Yeah, so once we get into power and become the dictators of South Africa, we're going to build special gulags. We're going to shoot everyone without fear or favor. And then we're going to send the bill for the ammunition to that victim's family as reparations for ANC rule. Because that's the only way to deal with this sort of stuff.
Let us know what you think in the comments below. We don't want you all to be like, let's run away from South Africa. Karen responds. Give us a proper response. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Until next week. Bye.